Even at 1-7, the Arizona Cardinals still are not in as bad a spot as most people think. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Please go to the YouTube channel, subscribe, just search Locked On Arizona Cardinals, hit that bell for notifications. You can see my big dumb face. If you like, go leave a review on Apple, Google Play, wherever you get your podcast. I'd appreciate it. Had some Baltimore Ravens fans not so happy with me that I said I'd choose Kyler Murray over Lamar Jackson 2 years ago and just got flooded with 1 stars. Flooded. It was a good time. It was a fun time. But yeah, could use some help, could use some boost. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. A lot to discuss today. It's Wednesday, Cleveland coming up. I'm going to be talking with Jeff Lloyd from Locked On Browns tomorrow. Mary Kay Cabot, renowned reporter out in Cleveland, said that it's going to be PJ Walker if Deshaun Watson can't go. We'll discuss more about that, tomorrow and then definitely into Friday. But I wanted to take today, especially with what happened with the Raiders yesterday and early this morning, to kind of do a barometer check. And we're going to talk about Kyler Murray. I'll talk about James Conner, who can come back next week. I'll talk about that in the second segment. And then if you're watching on YouTube right now, you'll see on the overlay, season starts in week 10. I'll explain. And right now, when things don't go well with other organizations, okay, when things are looked to be dysfunctional in other organizations, I can't help but compare that to the Cardinals. And not just, that's dysfunctional like the Cardinals. That's not what I mean anymore. Every organization's got their different dysfunctions. No organization is perfect, regardless of if it looks like that. Obviously, there are going to be issues, things like it's a business. Good businesses just put out more fires more quickly than other businesses and recover. And when you see Josh McDaniels get fired, when you see Jimmy Garoppolo get benched, when you see the GM get fired, when you see the OC get fired through week 8 in the middle of a season after signing Jimmy Garoppolo to a 3-year deal, they blow it up. They blow it up. And that's why it was so important that Michael Bidwell fired Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury before this season started. A year after giving them a contract extension, he severed it. He severed the ties. He severed it. And while there's a report out from ESPN that deep dives some not so great things Michael Bidwell has done as an owner, whether it be verbally reprimanding people to tears, I suggest you go read the article. I'll discuss it. I just think that with this being a football podcast and with me constantly talking about with the metaphor that, when you go to, and for everydayers, you'll hear this, but I think it's important to continue to bring back up as kind of a reset for the Cardinals structure in more metaphor form. Michael Bidwell has had a litany of not so great actions accused against him. Workplace discrimination, whether it be against women or people of, racially charged is what the quote said, that there were some racially charged things that, there were conflicting reports on if it was true or not, whatever it may be. The Arizona Cardinals from Monty Ossenfort down are in the center of State Farm Stadium under one of those big-ass tents that weddings are held under during inclement weather. And Michael Bidwell's everywhere else. The Cardinals can still run without dysfunction from Monty Ossenfort down, regardless of who the owner of the organization is. And I think it's very important to see that with all of the noise that's going to be around Michael Bidwell. It doesn't seem like it's slowing down anytime soon. And I'm sorry to tell you, you can't this is not a Daniel Snyder. It's a serious situation, 1,000%. And it's not in the way that Daniel Snyder was ousted from his post with the Commanders. We'll see. I mean, I don't think it's a sellable that he has to sell the organization, but there's at least one court case going on in some form or fashion. The McDonough case, and there's just more noise on the outside with Michael Bidwell. It's serious, and it's not anymore directly correlated to exactly what the Cardinals are trying to achieve now. And when you see the Raiders, that was you think, yeah, the Cardinals are 1-7. Yeah. Kyler Murray, who knows if he's going to be the quarterback for the future? I think he is, but we need to see it in 2023 before making a decision, draft capital next year. Where the Cardinals are now is full of opportunity and options. And this isn't me twisting something to make it look better than it is. This isn't me trying to find a segment to talk about in the middle of a lost season before Kyler Murray comes back. This is very important in my humblest of opinions, to kind of take stock into what's being built here. Is it going to work? We have no idea. Nobody has any idea about any of this going to happen. Obviously, it's just life. You try to set yourself up with the best opportunities possible, and you hope that they're executed properly. What the Cardinals have is a head coach seems that they trust, a GM who has shown more competency in how long has he been GM? 6 months? Than Steve Keim showed in 10 years. Close to it. Maybe that may not be fair to Steve Keim, but this will go down as one of the best drafts in the Cardinals' recent memory, and it's not close if things continue. The Cardinals are set up with future draft capital, seemingly good young talent that the Cardinals drafted in 2023. And again, we'll see, it's very early, 8 games. I get it. They've got guys who play really hard, and then that's peppered in with veterans at key positions, namely safety, Hollywood Brown, James Conner, Kyler Murray. Hjalti Froholt, I guess at this point, is a veteran, and I would assume he's going to be part of the plans for the future for the Cardinals, especially if they can draft a solid left guard. They've got opportunities. The Raiders are starting from scratch in the middle of a season. They elevated Antonio Pierce to acting head coach, who was ousted from the NCAA ranks at ASU for recruiting violations. So that's very tough to sell, especially to a fan base who loves their Raiders so much, whether it was Oakland, LA, Oakland, or now in Vegas. Where are the opportunities there? Where are the possibilities? Where are the options? Look at the Cardinals. Sure, 1-7, of course, not great. Joshua Dobbs, not a great quarterback, traded him. But when I scream from the mountaintops, proof of concept, that's why. And I'll discuss why the season starts in week 10 as it's directly correlated to proof of concept. But when you see things around the league and you see teams slowly starting to fail mid-season, without a real plan to elevate. I mean, that's without injury. Kirk Cousins, you can't blame anybody on that, even though they weren't winning games. But that's kind of the Vikings. And then they'll just win a bunch of games, make the playoffs, and scare a team in the first round. There's so much dysfunction in the NFL. I mean, what's the Giants' plan? What are these teams' plans? While the Cardinals are in the cellar, the worst team record-wise in the NFL through 8 weeks, this is part of the plan to pivot away from the dysfunction and into the land of opportunity and options. And that's something that not a lot of other teams who are failing like the Cardinals have in an effort to change things for the future. And that is why the Cardinals aren't nearly in as bad of a spot as their record indicates. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Kyler Murray, when's he coming back? James Conner, he's eligible to come back next week. When's he coming back? Let's discuss that next as we roll on here. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by eBay Motors. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see who Vinny's picked out for us on this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. Panthers running back Chuba Hubbard got the lead duties in Week 8 against the Texans, despite Miles Sanders being available. Although Hubbard struggled to get going in that matchup, he should find more running room back at home against the Colts, breaking down front. The Panthers' power running should yield better results, but Hubbard can also have a bigger impact in the passing game to deliver an all-around game as a fantasy sleeper. And Vinny Iyer from Locked On Fantasy Football is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player playing a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. With brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. And keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Everydayers, thanks for hanging out. If this is your first time listening to Locked On Cardinals, thank you. Maybe make tomorrow your second listen. Crossover Thursdays are fun. Jeff Lloyd, incredible. We've got an incredible crew of Locked On NFL hosts here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's a treat to talk with one of them each week to preview the matchup from the opposition standpoint. Just a little recap here. For those who are and this isn't a challenge, it's a request. Okay. Because I know, not everybody agrees with everybody. It seems very one side or the other with this organization. Oh, Jonathan Gannon. Now he's getting all the excuses. They shouldn't be 1-7. I don't care about proof of concept. They need to win games. That's what it is. He's not cut out for this. Or Jonathan Gannon is ushering in a new regime here with, balance, cohesion, and a new culture, and the wins will come. It's one or the other. It's very cut and dry. Just like Kyler or Cliff. Who's the problem? What I request is if you're on the side that this isn't working, it's still the same old Cardinals. You've been a fan. Kevin McKenna, you're going to get it. You're going to get a reach out. Comments. This dude watches every day. He disagrees with everything that I say, and I love it. I don't say that as a dig. You deserve your shout out. Look around the NFL. He's been a fan of the team for 40 years. Look in the comments. He lets me know multiple times. Look around the NFL now. And I want you to count, and I'm going to be looking for this comment. I want you to count how many other teams have it worse off than the Cardinals as it currently sits. And I would say, and we take this grading on a curve because the Cardinals are the worst team in football through 8 weeks, record-wise. I would say there's at least 5 or 6 teams, 7 teams, that you'd rather have the Cardinal situation than theirs. And that's for the worst team in the NFL win-loss record-wise. Because this is going to be, I'm talking, it's obvious. This is a throwaway year win-loss record-wise. But this is how you build. And that's why I'm so hell-bent on buying into this, whatever this is, whatever this Arizona Cardinals 2.0 is, because there are options, there are opportunities, And there are possibilities for a trajectory shifting next 18 months. Dysfunctional teams don't have to stay dysfunctional forever. That's why I've talked for the last 2 years. Look at the Lions. That's who the Cardinals should be mapping their team around. Not the Chiefs, not the Eagles, not the 49ers. There's no direct. Those are like, there's so many parallels. And yes, the Dave Sears coming over from Detroit here. Yes, sure. That's you have that link there. But look at what's happened in Motor City. Look at what Dan Campbell has done. They're the most fun team to watch. One of the most fun teams to watch in football. They've built the roster, built through the draft. And that's what they're missing on Jeff Okudah. That was like the last bad draft pick they had. And look at what's happening. That's the team the Cardinals should be mirroring. And it seems slowly but surely that's what they are. And when Kyler Murray comes back, we could see that boost that Detroit had, starting with them beating the Cardinals in 2021 when the Cardinals were one of the best teams in football record-wise. Could come full circle. Kyler and James Conner. By all accounts, Kyler ain't playing on Sunday. Don't know why. You go back and forth. There's the different lines of thought here. One, you don't want to put him against Cleveland defense in the first week. Two, they need as much tape on this young man as possible to come to a determination if he's the guy for the future. If the latter is already decided, fine. You don't play. But like, it always made sense that Atlanta was the choice. Like, rational sense. If he's healthy, I'd play him. And I go back and forth with this, but it's like, there's no bad defense in the NFL. These are all grown men who are coming to rip your head off. It doesn't matter what jersey they wear. It doesn't matter what past games shown. These are all big boy NFL defenses against an offensive line that's probably a B-, C+, a C- on the left side, if not D+. And they're going to have to deal with it regardless of who the front is. So if you don't play him against Myles Garrett in that front, you're going to play him against the now Montez Sweat-led Atlanta Falcons defense for the second time this year. Montez Sweat, because he played with Washington. So if he's healthy, playing, in my opinion. But then again, what's the rush? These are like the conundrums that go. I say some, very opinionated here, but I think about this stuff before I just spew it out. And I've talked to a bunch of my friends in this industry, whether it be them covering the Cardinals or not. And it's just like, I don't know which side is right. I constantly fight with myself. I'm like, well, obviously, so if he's healthy, he plays. Get it. And that's where I am. That's where I am. But it went through layers of, it's going to jettison their chance at a top 3 pick unless Kyle, if Kyler Murray plays well, because they're going to win. And then good. So you have the QB1 for the future. Doesn't matter what a top pick is. And that's where I am now. But there were layers. It took me a while to get there. So this is the beginning of the execution of a QB1 is more important than a top 5 pick. And if the Cardinals end up winning 5 games this year because Kyler Murray comes in and he balls out and the defense is as healthy as it's going to be, and it's playing at its most elite level with, the talent at hand in 2023, that's a win. That's where I am. On Sunday, if he's healthy, I'm starting him. But I don't think that's going to happen. Clayton Tune's most likely going to start, and he's going to start in Atlanta. James Conner, available to come off the IR next week. Do you bring him off the IR right away? Are all the boys getting back together here? And you're just starting now. Come what may, have a strong end to the 2023 season, and show a little preview of what the least talented roster the Arizona Cardinals are going to field from now, probably for the next 5 years, if not longer, looks like with this new offense, this new defense, new head coach, new GM. Yes. I am in that camp. Win games. Show people. and then take the bleep up. Take the bleep off next year to the moon once you infuse some talent into this roster, namely on the defense. The season starts in week 10. I'll discuss next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by the Game Time app. Game time, game time. Nope, didn't sound as good as I wanted it to. So here's the thing. You want tickets for football games, basketball games, World Series, comedy, theater, concerts, whatever it is. And there's so many different purveyors out there. But the Game Time app is the simplest. The Game Time app has the most little, they've got these quick boost discounts. They've got some of the lowest prices. The coolest part for me is they have tickets right up to the time of the event and even an hour after it starts. So say you want to go to a Suns game and you're like, oh, tickets, and then you're like, oh, you know what? Wait, I just got off work. I can make it. Let's see if the tickets are still available 20 minutes after the game starts. You can still buy those tickets online. The coolest part about the Game Time app, in my opinion, though, is so say you search Suns and you see, row or section 220, row 8. You're like, I wonder what that. You click on that, the ticket price, and it shows you a panoramic view with you moving your phone around of what the vantage point is from those seats. So you know exactly what you're going to be looking at after you buy those tickets. It's wild. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price. Guarantee. The Arizona Cardinals are in a much better spot than their record indicates. Kyler Murray should be starting this week, but 5% of me understands, 10% of me understands why you'd wait until week 10 home. Maybe a little bit of an inferior defense compared, but with the addition of Montez Sweat, I'm not sure. And the season starts in week 10. Let me explain. I've spewed Arizona Cardinals 2.0, Arizona Cardinals 2.0, Arizona Cardinals 2.0 this entire offseason through this season as a bridge from dysfunctionality to functionality, a culture shift, a regime shift, and off to the moon in 2024, you hope. And this is when, a week from Sunday, the afternoon slate with the Atlanta Falcons coming into town. Because this more than likely, and I'll revisit this next week as we get closer, but more than likely, you're going to see, and barring any injuries getting up to that point, more than likely, let me start the third time so I don't interrupt myself for the third time, even though I just interrupted myself the third time. More than likely, you're going to see the healthiest version of this roster in week 10. Kyler Murray, James Conner, Hollywood Brown, the entire offense. Jalen Thompson, Budda Baker, B.J. Ojulari's healthy. Garrett Williams is healthy. And it's not great. It's not like this exponentially better roster aside from the quarterback position that it's like, oh, the Cardinals can now make a push and, win their last 6 games and go make the playoffs. No. But you're going to get to see just an elevation. You're going to get to see the ones do it. And I think that is going to be incredibly fascinating because that is the time where you really start to see who's going to be on this roster next year and in what role and in what capacity. Is our players going to get contract extensions? Is, Zaven Collins going to get a 5th-year option picked up? Is Garrett Williams CB1? Is Budda Baker part of the long-term plans? Is DJ Humphries going to retire? This is when the experiment, the social psychology experiment begins from our angle. And I am, and you should be, well, I'm not, you can feel however you want. You should be so, I'm pissed that the time zone is changing in Arizona, or it's not changing on Sunday. So I have to wait an extra hour to watch the Cardinals in the afternoon a week from Sunday. This should be the most exciting game to watch probably since Kyler Murray single-handedly brought the team back for an overtime victory against the Raiders in week 2 of last season. This is it. This is the beginning of the new regime with QB1, RB1, wide receiver 1, both safeties, Paris Johnson Jr. Like, this is Trey McBride, this is when it begins. A week from Sunday, at home against the Falcons. Kyler Murray going to be a Pro Bowler come week 10? There's going to be some rust. It's new offense. He's never taken snaps under center. Okay. It's going to be fine. I think it's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. And that's probably one of the main reasons why they'd hold him to week 10 is as many reps as possible. New offense, he's thrown to Trey McBride like 5 times. Him and Hollywood Brown have that connection, but, no Michael Wilson. Rondale Moore was completely misused when Kyler Murray was quarterback the last couple seasons. So week 10 is Christmas come early. Week 10 is the beginning of all of this officially. And we are going to see from week 10 through week 18 with the bye week in the middle, is Kyler Murray the quarterback for the future? Does Jonathan Gannon know what the hell he's doing? Does Drew Petzing know what the hell he's doing? Does Nick Rallis know what the hell he's doing? Who's going to be on this roster in 2024? All of it starts in week 10. But before that is week 9. Jeff Lloyd, Locked on Browns, joins me tomorrow for a crossover Thursday. It's going to be fun. I'll talk to you then. Locked on Cardinals, your team every